Hello and welcome everyone to the December 31st, 2018 edition of Sidereal Insights Astro Update. I'm 𝗦𝗲𝗏 𝗔𝘀𝗀. I'm the artist and astrologer of Mystic Physick Astrology. And I use Western sidereal astrology in my practice to help you kind of reconnect with your soul purpose, to help you remember why you came to begin with. And with Sidereal Insights, our aim with the broadcast is to really to provide guidance for you on how you can consciously use the energy of the transiting planets to affect your life in a positive way. And so every 2 weeks, we explore the astrology of the current planetary transits across the heavens from a Western sidereal perspective. And so you'll need your sidereal natal chart, your Fen-Bradley Western natal chart. And if you need that, you can jump on the link in the video description, either right above or right below the video, to input your birth data and get a copy of your sidereal natal chart. And so thank you for joining me today. Please like and share this broadcast. Tag a friend if you know someone who might be interested in Western sidereal astrology or astrology in general. You can follow Mystic Physick on Facebook, and also be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll find a link for that in the video description as well. So let's talk a little bit about what our current transits are and then what we can expect in the coming couple of weeks as January just begins, as the new year, as 2019 just begins. I don't know if you all are as excited for that as I am. So right now, nearly all of the planets in our solar system have returned to direct motion. Mercury just left the shadow of his retrograde on Christmas Eve, December 24th. We have Uranus, the last rebel planet, dragging his feet in retrograde status, due to go direct in Aries on January 7th, just after our January new moon, which is very exciting and very timely. We have the Sun currently touring sidereal Sagittarius. The Sun moved into Sagittarius in December on the 17th and will be there until just after mid-January. And that transit can emphasize our collective desire to connect with loved ones and other people in our life, sometimes across great distances, in celebration, in observance, or in fellowship and communion. We also have Mars currently touring Pisces. Mars entered Pisces on the 24th of December, so just a few days ago. That's a 6-week-long transit. Mars isn't necessarily at home in the water signs, so keep that in mind. But when he's in Pisces, we can really best use this responding to the urge to retreat, to spend some time relaxing, to seek out spiritual pursuits, and to escape from the bustle and stress of the outside world. So solitude and contemplation can be really beneficial when Mars is in Pisces. It's also a really great time to wrap up loose ends, okay? Now, late December, right now, we've got Venus in sextile to Pluto. This is kind of a nice aspect for us. It's very timely as well. They're teaming up really to kind of set the tone for the end of year celebrations, for New Year's Eve celebrations. So holiday parties can kind of have a little bit of sizzle and sparkle to them. Make your plans accordingly. But also keep in mind, as you're planning your 2019, this particular transit can really give you a hand in being strategic about what is most important to you in the coming year, in terms of what your goals are, in terms of what you want to accomplish and what you want to experience. So be planning your 2019. Take your first steps, though, just after the upcoming new moon, when we'll have the support of every planet in the solar system in direct motion all at the same time. Okay, but really keep in mind, be strategic about what's truly important to you and about what your values are. So spend some time reflecting over this past year. And have a look at what you may need to change in your approach based on what you've discovered about what's important to you as you've experienced some of the contrast of the previous 12 months, okay? Go ahead and make your New Year's resolution. Don't start it, like I said, though, until after the first new moon of the year, after Uranus has resumed direct motion. After the 7th, that's going to allow you to position your New Year's resolution very strongly for long-term positive impact. And I have a particular date for you in mind that we'll talk about a little bit later on in the broadcast, okay? But you'll want to harness the power of all the planets in direct motion and really make the most of that. But use this next week to finalize any lingering details or incomplete business that you have, unfinished business that you have left over from 2018, because you'll want to make a clean, fresh start in 2019. And so you can wrap up those loose ends right now as you prepare to get ready for the new moon solar eclipse in Sagittarius. So early January, we have some sign changes, some planet shifting signs. Mercury's going to enter Sagittarius. That'll be a transit lasting. If you work in a writing or a literary field or communications field, you can really capitalize on those first 3 weeks of January. So can journalists or broadcasters, any folks who work in communications or who work in sales, right? Travel is also favored during the first 3 weeks of January, especially over very long distances, or travel to foreign countries. Anything that broadens your mind, any kind of activity that serves to expand your thinking and expand your perspective is favored while Mercury is transiting Sagittarius. But keep in mind, Mercury is in fall while he's in Sagittarius, right? Mercury is the planet of communication. This is the sign that is Let's make sure this works here. We just lost our signal briefly. So what we were saying is that Mercury is in fall in Sagittarius, right? He's the planet of communication. Sagittarius is the sign of expansion. Lots of people, great distances. So this is descriptive of news that can spread very broadly, right? So if you have secrets to keep, if you have activities that you're trying to keep under wraps or negotiations that you're trying to conduct privately, keep things to yourself. Don't share with anyone unnecessarily. This is a time, like I said, when news can travel far and wide. So it's a great time to book, to do a book launch or have a publicity tour. Not a good time for secrets. So keep secrets to yourselves right now. Just the very next day, the 2nd of January, we're going to have Mercury moving out of bounds. And this is going to last pretty much the entire time he's touring Sagittarius. He'll be out of bounds until January 18th. Now, keeping in mind, an out of bounds planet has traveled either north or south beyond the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn. Okay, so they don't march to the beat of the drum everyone else marches to, planetarily speaking, right? They're a little bit reckless. They're a little bit maverick. They're a little bit out of the box. They don't play by the same rules that everyone else is playing by. So stories, when Mercury's out of bounds, stories in particular can take on added significance, and we can become far too attached to them. Now, this can be literary stories like a novel you've been reading or a movie that you've watched, or it can be the stories that you tell about your own life and your own experience, okay? So be aware of the risk that you can become overly attached to stories in the coming 3 weeks. Be aware of the increased likelihood of misconstruing other people's words. We tend to misconstrue words and blow things out of proportion and overreact in response when Mercury is out of bounds. Now, Mercury out of bounds has positive qualities too. We can be really cutting edge in our thinking. We can come up with really fantastic out-of-the-box ideas. So there's definitely some positive effects of this, but just be aware of the potential for overreaction, of misunderstanding what someone is saying, and for the potential to become really attached to stories. But like I said, that's going to last until the 18th, which is right before Mercury moves out of Sagittarius and into Capricorn. So this whole tour of Sagittarius is going to be colored kind of by this Mercury out of bounds influence. We also, on the 2nd, have Venus moving into Scorpio. So just after Mercury moves into Sagittarius, Venus moves into Scorpio. We also have the Sun conjunct Saturn that day. So a couple of things to think about. While Venus is in Scorpio, this is about a 3.5 week long transit typically. Wealth and influence building activities can benefit from this transit. So establishing your own expertise in your industry, perhaps, or taking a closer look at your bigger financial picture in terms of asset management, debt management, your estate planning, that sort of thing, insurance coverage, all of those things can benefit while Venus is in Scorpio. Just take a second look at things. Make sure you've got your 2019 off to a great start in terms of wealth building and building your own influence in your own sphere, your own world, whether that has to do with your career, your social life, your personal life. Standing in your own power can be a way to embody Venus in Scorpio. Okay. Now, Sun conjunct Saturn usually is a difficult day during the year. This typically only happens once a year. It's usually a very challenging day. That happens also on January 2nd. We're going to get that out of the way early on in the year. So I guess that's nice. Hi, Jenny. It's good to have you joining us, and Happy New Year to you too. So this meetup of the Sun and Saturn on the 2nd can be difficult for a lot of folks. It's probably the most difficult day of the year for those with Leo Sun or Leo rising. Okay, Leo being ruled by the Sun, Saturn being the planet of obstacles and limitations. We can encounter obstacles and limitations when the Sun transits conjunct Saturn. We can encounter them in such a way that they limit or restrict our ability to act or otherwise exert our will. So keep that in mind. If you have something super important, if you're Leo Sun or Leo rising, if you have something super important to do, don't necessarily plan to do it on the 2nd because you could run into obstacles. Maybe hold off and plan to do that on the 11th, and we'll get into why here in just a moment. But this Sun conjunct Saturn by transit can also manifest as low energy. And that can materialize in a couple of different ways. That could be through lack of rest, where you're low energy because you just haven't been getting enough rest and enough sleep. It can be low energy due to heavy physical labor or prolonged exertion. So be aware that it just may be a day of flat out hard work for some folks. It can be a very important day. If you have Capricorn Sun or Capricorn rising, you'll have the Sun conjunct the ruler of your natal Sun or of your natal ascendant, and that can put you at the center of attention. So use this day to do something really important if you happen to have Capricorn Sun or Capricorn rising. Okay, that's the 2nd of January. Now, the next major thing that happens as we move further into January, on the 6th, we're going to have the new moon solar eclipse, and we'll be feeling this as soon as the year opens, especially those of us who are directly affected by the eclipse. That eclipse energy can last for several weeks very intensely in the week leading up to and the week following the eclipse itself. So pay attention to events that happen during that time. Take note of them. You may want to even jot events down. This new moon is really significant, not only because it's an eclipse, which is particularly powerful, especially for change, but also because it's activating a stellium in the sign of sidereal Sagittarius. A stellium is what we consider anytime there are 4 or more planets in a sign, or by house, but in this case by sign. It means crown of stars, literally, okay? The reason why this is important is that it adds the power and influence of all of those planets currently transiting Sagittarius to the energy of the new moon, and it suggests that the outcome of the new moon, or whatever it is you choose to start just after the new moon, will affect many different areas of life for anyone directly affected. Now, why is this? Well, in astrology, we say that the activities or events of the house, we'll call it house A. In this case, we're talking about Sagittarius, your Sagittarius house. Those activities and events further the agenda of house B, or the house ruled by our guest planet. So in this case, you would look, using your sidereal natal chart, you would look to the houses ruled by the planets of the stellium, which are Pluto, Saturn, Mercury, and both the luminaries, the sun and the moon, to know what areas of your life might be affected by whatever this eclipse brings, or by whatever it is you begin in the days just after the new moon. Now remember, Mercury rules 2 signs and therefore 2 houses, especially if you're using a whole house system like I do, or if you use an equal house system. that's half the chart. That's a lot of astrological real estate that this particular new moon solar eclipse in Sagittarius could have an effect on. Okay. Otherwise, if you're using different house systems, it can vary how many houses might be involved depending on where you were born. But have a look at your chart and be familiar with, and that way you can know what areas of life you need to keep an eye on as as this new moon solar eclipse energy unfolds in the coming, say 6 to 18 months potentially. But check your sidereal natal chart for planets or personal points near 20 degrees of Sagittarius or one of the other fire or air signs. So Aries or Leo, Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius. Okay. And also recall from the December overview, if you read that, I wrote that the exposure of secrets or lies or deception could cause loss in the wake of this new moon. It could either change which party is in control of a given situation or otherwise influence the outcome. Okay. Also, one thing to keep in mind with stellium and Sagittarius, you'll want to make extra effort to pay attention to the details. Okay, it'll be easy to overlook the details that could come back to bite you in the butt. So, big picture thinking is emphasized right now, but don't lose sight of how important the details are. Okay. And if you want to learn more about how eclipses can affect us, or if you need to take a quick refresher, check out the Eclipse Essentials video that we recorded earlier this year. I have the link for that, I think, in the video description, but I'll double check it after the broadcast and make sure I've included it. Pluto and the Sun are going to meet up on the 11th of January. So this is about a week after our new moon. This is the day I really want you to kind of put a gold star on. It's an important day for nearly every sign. It's one of the most important days of the year. Pluto is the most influential of all the planets, and he has the potential to bring change and transformation. He has the potential to bring destruction, wealth, authority, influence. These are all hallmarks of Pluto. Pluto is the planet of regeneration, of healing, of rebirth. Okay, so that makes this particular meetup on the 11th one that is just full of a lot of different possibilities for how things can play out, right? So readers with Leo Sun or Leo Rising are going to be very strongly affected by this transit. This would be a prime day to use if you need to do something important, far better of a choice than January 2nd when the Sun was conjoining Saturn, okay? So if you have Leo Sun or Leo Rising, put a gold star on the 11th of January. If you have Scorpio Sun or Scorpio Rising, same thing. This could be a very important day of the year for you. You may find yourself in the spotlight or at the center of attention in some way. For the rest of us, it's still a very powerful day. It's a very powerful day to actually begin your New Year's resolution, the 11th of January, not the 1st, the 11th. You incorporate into your resolution the potential for significant and profound change, for transformation, okay? And that's why I say consider the 11th to begin your New Year's resolution or to take your first step or a significant step towards your first major initiation of the year, okay? January 11th is the day that you want to put the gold star on. You'll want to also look for 26 degrees of Sagittarius or a fire sign, so Leo or Aries, in your sidereal natal chart to see how intensely you might be affected by the Pluto-Sun conjunction, whether through your own power or through that of an authority figure or other influential person in your life, okay? And if you have a planet or point near 26 degrees Pisces or Virgo, you're much more likely to be challenged by this Sun conjunct Pluto transit. So keep that in mind as well. But note any events that happen in the days around January 11th, they're likely to be pretty important. And to wrap up, the January overview and short reports should be posted tomorrow. I'll share a link for that and email it out as soon as I have those posted for you. Join me coming up on the 4th of January. Coming up, we're going to be doing the New Moon in Sagittarius intention setting practice in the Sidereal Insights Astrology Facebook community. And this will be for that New Moon solar eclipse, which is a really powerful opportunity. So you won't want to miss this intention setting broadcast. It's at 7:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're joining us from the UK, it's at 2:30 in the morning the next day, January 5th, okay? Or if you're joining us from Australia, it's going to be 1:30 in the afternoon, Australian Eastern Daylight Time. So please join me for that. And remember, like and share the broadcast if you know someone who might be interested in what we've covered here today. Thanks for watching. And if you haven't yet ordered your Ultimate Astrological Planner for 2019, you can shop the entire selection online at mystickphysick.com/2019. And you can find a link for that in the video description as well. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you again next time.